All right, our first playoff version of 49ers Intel. We didn't have this series, 49ers Intel, over the past two seasons while we've been talking 49ers football on this channel. Coined the show this year, been waiting a long time for the first playoff version of 49ers Intel. I was in the locker room, I was out on the practice field. I've got a lot of good nuggets for you as the 49ers prepare for the Green Bay Packers. Speaking of the Packers, there's the matchup, Brock Purdy against Jordan Love. This came out in the morning on The Athletic. We've got a lot of good graphics, a lot of good stats. This is a titanic matchup. These are two elite quarterbacks, or at least one elite quarterback. Brock Purdy is elite. I think he has cemented his status in that regard. Jordan Love, we've seen about half a season of really, really good play. If he can keep this up for another year, kind of like Brock Purdy had to keep it up throughout all of 2023, people are going to be legitimate people are going to be talking about Jordan Love as elite. I'm not talking about randos on Twitter and people who think they know the tape and people who think that they can say something about Brock Purdy and sound smarter than everybody else. We're talking about the people that actually know what they're talking about. And those people are giving Brock Purdy credit. Those people are giving Jordan Love credit for the great half season that he's delivered here for the Packers. It started off slow, but as soon as he found that rhythm with the plethora of weapons that Green Bay has, he has been able to deliver a lot of wins for the Green Bay Packers. I'll say this, the 49ers were watching the Packers-Cowboys game, and midway through the second quarter, Kyle Shanahan said, all right, let's go. Let's get ready for Green Bay. They did not believe that Dallas was going to come back in that game, and they were right. Dallas did not come back in that football game. The Cowboys got blown out at home. The 49ers were right to prepare for the Green Bay Packers, and they've been up for a while now trying to figure out what's going to be best against Jordan Love and this offense. I will say this. I talked to Nick Bosa in the locker room today, and my main thing is the 49ers defense has played its best football this year whenever it has been rested. That's something that I brought up early in the year, something a lot of people are trying to bring up now, but this to me has been a theme since the very start. These guys came out of the gate firing weeks 1 to 5. After that Dallas game is when we started to see the missed tackles rack up and we started to see the pass rush lose a bit of steam. Week 6, 7, and 8 were struggles for the 49ers defensively, especially from the tackling perspective. Then they went into the bye week, hibernated. Nick Bosa, the Bear, hibernated, and they got back out there against the Jacksonville Jaguars and dominated again. The missed tackles went right down. The pass rush was good. Steve Wilkes obviously moved down to the sideline from the booth over the course of the bye week, and he got those coverage combinations right for the Jacksonville game. They confused the hell out of Trevor Lawrence, made him hold on to the ball for at least an extra hitch. Pass rush hit. Chase Young infused into the lineup for the 49ers. They were off and running. We saw the tackling and some of the defensive performance tail off a bit toward the end of the season, and I think that coincided with fatigue. So talking to Nick Bosa in the locker room today, he thinks that 49ers defense is going to send a message. He thinks they're going to come out there fresh. They're going to be firing off the football. 2019 came up in our conversation. That's when Dee Ford was firing off the ball on the other side. They don't have Dee Ford anymore, but they do have Chase Young. They don't have DeForest Buckner anymore, but they have a better pass rusher in Javon Hargrave. And guess who's coming back for the 49ers in this game? That's right, Eric Armstead. Armstead started to post some game tape of himself from this year on social media today. I talked to Eric for a couple minutes in the locker room. Didn't speak to the media, but did have a short conversation with him, and I've got something cooking with Eric Armstead and somebody else on the 49ers that I'm going to be writing up on The Athletic. So I'll let you guys know a little bit more about that later. But the 49ers are going to have a fully stocked defensive line, maybe minus Cleveland Farrell. He's probably the one player on the active roster who's not likely to play in this game. But they've added Sebastian Joseph Day. They've been integrating him into the system. But I talked to Bosa, and we talk about the 2019 surge following the bye week with a fresh defense. I think the 49ers might be set to benefit from a similar dynamic in this game. But it is a titanic offensive matchup between the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. Just going through some of the statistics, and I'm going to toss this into the description. Mike, if you can toss this link into the description right now, people will have a chance to click on it a little bit earlier. But we can look and see exactly what's going on in an offensive matchup standpoint between the Packers and the 49ers. This is since week 9, since Jordan Love has turned things around. It's Purdy and Love top right. That's where you absolutely want to be. Green Bay defensively has not been nearly as good. Defensively, number 25 weeks 1 to 8 and number 23 weeks 9 to now. So the defense hasn't gotten better, which just leads me to believe that the 49ers offense is going to have big time opportunities in this football game. That's number 25 against the pass, number 23 against the pass in EPA. They've improved from 25 to 20. But one thing about the Packers is you look at Jordan Love, and I truly believe that he's at the center of this big turnaround for the Packers. They're possessing the ball at the second highest rate since week 9. Their time of possession was down near number 28 or number 29 for the first 8 weeks of the season. So that explains why the defense has gotten a little bit better. But the fact that the defense just isn't fundamentally better, that also explains why the Green Bay Packers still have relatively poor numbers defensively, even since the offense has hit its stride. So the offense has shielded the defense a little bit. They've allowed them to move closer to mediocrity, but they can't bring them out of a lower half ranking. And that works in the 49ers' favor. Take a look at this. And I talk about Jordan Love, and we talk about the Packers moving on from Aaron Rodgers to Love. These are the best games in Green Bay Packers history. Postseason, regular season, whatever you want to call it. The best games in Green Bay Packers history involve one from Aaron Rodgers against Atlanta in 2020. That was a fourth quarter. That was, a week 4 game. I saw the 4 here and accidentally said fourth quarter. A week 4 game. Aaron Rodgers, defense adjusted value over average, had a great performance. But you only have Rodgers on this list once. You have Brett Favre on this list 4 times. And you have Jordan Love at the top of it. What Jordan Love did against the Dallas Cowboys was so damn efficient and so damn impressive with the 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 16 of 21 for 272 yards. It tops all performances in Packers history in terms of DVOA. That goes back to 1981, but I'd be hard-pressed to find something more impressive before 81 just because the league was different then. Look what else is on the list, though. Number 4 all-time in Packers history was Brett Favre in 1995, divisional round of the playoffs, upset victory for the Packers over the 49ers. The 49ers had the number 1 pass defense that year. Their coordinator was Pete Carroll, and the Packers went into Candlestick and won 27-17. Favre went 21 of 28 for 299 yards, didn't throw a pick, even though he has the all-time NFL career lead in interceptions. It was a tremendously efficient performance for Brett Favre in 1995. I believe Steve Mariucci was still his quarterback's coach on the Packers staff, and Green Bay beat the 49ers 27-17. A lot of you will remember that game as the beginning of the end for the 49ers dynasty. They would hang on for a few more years there as playoff contenders, but they'd never won a Super Bowl again. The 49ers were defending Super Bowl champions in that 1995 season, but it was the Packers who beat them at Candlestick. The Packers would beat them 2 more times in a row in the postseason, and it wasn't until the catch 2, Terrell Owens from Steve Young in the 1998 wild card game, that the 49ers would beat Green Bay, but they lost the very next week to the Atlanta Falcons. And then the very next year, Steve Young suffered the concussion on the hit from Aeneas Williams, and obviously the 49ers never won a Super Bowl again, especially in those dynasty years. That was it for the dynasty years. They'd get back to the Super Bowl in 2012 under Jim Harbaugh, lost to the Ravens. Back in 2019, but lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. That was when Kyle Shanahan was the head coach. So just to put Jordan Love's perspective against performance against the Cowboys in a little bit more perspective, it was even better than Brett Favre on that day that the Packers beat the 49ers 27-17 at Candlestick in 1995. That game, by the way, Steve Young dropped back to pass 65 plus times. He had 65 attempts and he was sacked on top of that. So he might have dropped back to pass nearly 70 times in that game, which is unheard of in modern football, a modern era. It was especially unheard of in the mid 1990s. But the 49ers lost Ricky Watters, who was the Christian McCaffrey of that era for them, to free agency. He went to the Philadelphia Eagles. And after they lost Ricky Waters, that offense for the 49ers became too one-dimensional in big-time games. And the Packers had a big-time defensive line. They had big Gilbert Brown. Remember how massive that guy was, number 93 in the middle? They had Santana Dotson, and of course, they had the great late Reggie White. And Reggie White terrorized the 49ers in that game. San Francisco had a smaller offensive line, kind of like this current 49ers offensive line. They're more in it for that zone blocking scheme that they loved running. It wasn't just zone blocking, but they loved running to the perimeter. They loved the dual threat capability of their offense, not just with Steve Young, but with Ricky Waters and those guys. And they won a Super Bowl with it in 1994. But then they lost Ricky Waters in free agency. So when they played the Packers, they weren't able to run the football. And when they weren't able to run the football against Reggie White, Gilbert Brown and company, well, Steve Young had to drop back to pass 65 plus times. They got behind in the game. I think there was a fumble 6 in that game. So they got behind in the game, and it was ugly because Reggie White was an all-time great. And Reggie White, when he was able to pin his ears back with no threat of the run and get after the quarterback, well, he created a lot of trouble. And Steve Young, that was one of the low points of his career, that loss to the Packers. Meanwhile, on the other side, we saw Brett Favre do this because he was in control of game flow. And guess what? In this game, this one that's coming up on Sunday, the one where it won't be Steve Young against Brett Favre, but it will be Brock Purdy against Jordan Love, controlling game flow is going to be just as important as it was back in the 1990s when Reggie White was on the other side. I've repeated this many times, but the Packers, with their possession advantage ever since Jordan Love has caught fire right around week 9, the Packers, with what they did against the Cowboys last week, you saw Aaron Jones run for 118 yards. You saw Jordan Love deliver downfield to multiple different receivers from Romeo Doubs. I mean, you got Christian Watson. You got a lot of different weapons. I think you go about 5 or 6 deep at that receiver position with young, legitimate talent. And you move on to the tight end position where they've got Luke Musgrave, the nephew of the 49ers' third or fourth string quarterback back in 1994, 91 to 94, by the way. So you've got all these cool connections. But when you look at all the weapons that Green Bay has with a really good offensive line, number 2 in pass block win rate, and the ability to beat you either on the ground or through the air, and because of that, they've got the good play action game binding everything together. They're a threat to control game flow. And if they control game flow, the 49ers can learn from their past. They can learn from that 95 team, the number 1 defense in the league, coordinated by Pete Carroll, recently let go by the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe he's still in an advisory role or whatever, but he's not the coach anymore. That 49ers defense, though, was not able to contain Brett Favre, and he ended up on that list that I just showed you of great performances because the 49ers did not control game script. And you might be better than the Packers. You might be 10-point favorites this season. That's what the 49ers are. But if you cannot control and establish that grip on game flow early in this game, things can go sideways. Jordan Love and company, they've proven that they're good enough to do that because they just did that to the Dallas Cowboys this past weekend. More 49ers intel. Kyle Shanahan says no rust for Brock Purdy. He's not worried about it at all. In fact, this was the first text title up there. 49ers intensity is on point. The locker room felt really, really good today. Like a positive energy, but a focused energy. These guys, you ask Deebo Samuel, did he pay attention to Philadelphia's downfall? Does he have any thoughts about Philadelphia's downfall? Deebo just goes, not at all. Not at all. Next question. I put that tweet out there. Never before has a tweet that said so little, literally, like on the surface, generated that much reaction so quickly. It had 1,000 likes within minutes. People know that Deebo Samuel has talked a lot of crap about the Eagles. People know that he dressed in all black on his way into Philadelphia this year because he was preparing for the Eagles' funeral. People know that he was right about James Bradberry when he called James Bradberry trash. People know that he got into the Eagles' head. People know that Deebo Samuel's public enemy number 1 in Philadelphia, and that he probably out of all people is, well, Brock Purdy has a big part in this too, but Deebo Samuel's responsible for breaking the Eagles this year. I'm sure he took a lot of satisfaction in that. It was Deebo's 28th birthday yesterday, the day that the Eagles died, the day that their playoff hopes were completely extinguished. And he's the one that started that collapse. So I'm sure he took a lot of satisfaction out of it. But the fact that Deebo Samuel said, I'm not thinking about them at all, next question today, To me, that's the biggest troll that he could have given, but it also shows how focused the 49ers are at the task at hand. Because I mentioned this yesterday, the 49ers are in a moment in time right now. They're looking to try to win a Super Bowl, obviously the first one for the franchise since that 1994 season. There's been some torment along the way, but they've already talked a lot of the talk. And as far as breaking the Eagles and knocking the Eagles out and getting that revenge, they've walked that walk. But I don't think that walk is complete because this 49ers team is one of the most talented that we've seen in NFL history. Simply breaking the Eagles and knocking them out of the playoffs and sending them into a tailspin, that's not enough of a resume for this 49ers team. These guys need to get back to the Super Bowl. There's that sense of urgency in the locker room. To complete this story, they need to win the NFC Championship and they need to win the Super Bowl to do what has been just an epic story and an epic build of this roster. And now you have the vengeance against Philadelphia and everything intertwined in that. To do all of that justice, you need to take this across the finish line. This morning I was talking about it, right? The 1994 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys. Finally, they lost the 92 NFC Championship to Dallas. They lost the 1993 NFC Championship to Dallas. They got over the hump in 1994. But the job wasn't done there yet. They had to go and they had to beat the San Diego Chargers in the Super Bowl. People wouldn't remember the win over Dallas, or they wouldn't deify the win over Dallas right now, a good 29 years later. It was 29 years ago yesterday. That's why I went out the candlestick. People wouldn't deify that win unless the 49ers finished the job and won the Super Bowl. So I look at this Eagles thing in comparable fashion. Yeah, the 49ers went out, and that was a nice get back. That was one of the more epic get backs that we've ever seen. One of the more epic, jarring, attainments of vengeance that we've ever seen. Dressing in all black for their funeral, doing all that stuff, and then showing up and kicking the crap out of them, and then seeing the Eagle season die. Great. Awesome. But if you're in that 49ers locker room right now, you can sense that that's just one of the things that they've done. They checked it off the list. The ultimate goal is the Super Bowl. And to get to that ultimate goal, you've got to seize this moment in time that we're in right now. This moment in time is the postseason. They've got the Packers coming up on Saturday. Again, titanic offensive matchup against Green Bay. Got a couple other graphics for you. This is EPA per play since week 9. Best offenses in the league since the Packers turned it around. It's Green Bay at the top of the pack, not including the 49ers. Then it's the Packers, the Cowboys, the Lions, and the Ravens, all but Dallas still alive. So also note how much better the 49ers are than everybody else. You have the Packers and the Cowboys kind of bunched together. They're significantly ahead of the Lions and the Ravens. 49ers, the expected points added per play, way above everybody else's. So the 49ers are doing special stuff right now. The Packers are too, but the 49ers are truly unique. And to capitalize in this moment in time, they're going to have to find a way to beat Green Bay, capitalize on the fact that Green Bay's defense is, I don't think, equipped to slow down this kind of offense. It's going to take some fluky turnovers, I think, to go Green Bay's way, just based on the profiles here. Now, Joe Barry, who is the Packers defensive coordinator, speaking about 49ers history, he started his NFL coaching career as a defensive quality control coach under Steve Mariucci back in the year 2000. That was 24 years ago, nearly a quarter century ago. Joe Barry runs some good zone defensive schemes. I don't think he quite has the talent with this Green Bay defense, at least yet. They've got some draft capital, and they're going to be developing some young guys. They're going to be contenders for years to come if Jordan Love is truly the real deal at the quarterback position. I just don't think that Green Bay has the talent to match up with these powerhouse, juggernaut, adaptable offenses, and the 49ers are obviously the leaders of the pack in that regard. But he does have the schematic prowess to catch some teams off guard, and in a playoff scenario, make an opposing offense look bad. That's exactly what he did to Dak Prescott. Underneath pick from Darnell Savage. I mean, Savage is the strong safety, and he was preying on that Dak Prescott pass when Dallas was down 20-0. He was going for the little hook, and Savage got in the way of it and took it back for a pick 6. You saw Jair Alexander, who's a good cornerback, essentially run the route for Dallas on one of those plays. Lazy throw by Dak Prescott turns into an interception. So there's enough here for Green Bay to work with, despite the fact that the defense has struggled to create a little bit of chaos. And if you create a little bit of chaos, you open the door for Jordan Love, all those weapons offensively, good offensive line, Aaron Jones. You open the door for Green Bay to control game flow. And that's what the 49ers can't do. So when we talk about the 49ers intensity being on point, they had 2 practices last week, Thursday and Friday. That came off of some rest, and then they had more rest. So they wanted to manage rust while also maximizing rest. And they were competitive as hell on Thursday and Friday. On Friday, they even put on pads. What is it? It's January 16th. That was what, January 13th or so? Was that Friday the 13th or was it Friday the 12th? Didn't realize we just had. No, it was Friday the 12th. Good. Friday the 13th is bad luck. So they didn't have practice on Friday the 13th. They had practice on Friday the 12th. The 49ers put on pads. You don't see pads come on at practice in mid-January. By this point of the year, guys are tired. You've just played a 17-game regular season. You're bracing for 3 more games. That's what you want. You want to play 18, 19, and 20, 20 being the Super Bowl. You normally don't put on pads at practice. But that's exactly what the 49ers did. Why did they do it? Because they wanted to keep up that intensity and sharpen their swords for this big-time matchup. So you look at the way that this team has been preparing, and you look at the fact that they're rested and they're able to put on those pads and they're able to knock helmets, and you saw the offense and the defense jawing at each other even through the media after the practice on Thursday. And Fred Warner continued that today, saying that the defense definitely won on Friday. We'll have to take his word for it until we talk to George Kittle tomorrow. But you look at the work the 49ers put in. They didn't know that they were playing the Packers yet. But it turns out that the Packers run a lot of the same concepts and essentially a lot of the same overarching structure as the 49ers offense. The Packers are all about balance. Matt LaFleur had to change some stuff and adapt to Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers was there. But now LaFleur is running the LaFleur offense, which is run game, good creative blocking, and then play action off of that run game or the run game off of the play action with a passing threat. A lot of different, good, versatile weapons, including a couple tight ends, various skill sets and sizes and speeds of his receivers. It's an offense that's adaptable, that's designed to beat you in multiple different ways, which is exactly what the 49ers do. So the fact that the 49ers had some intense practices against each other, ones-on-ones, kind of like training camp on Thursday and Friday, helped start to get them ready for the challenge that Green Bay is going to bring to the table. And I'll tell you what, they're going to bring a really, really good offense to the table. Meanwhile, the 49ers, I could tell you for sure that the defense the 49ers faced in practice last week is going to be better than the defense that the Packers bring against them this coming week. Got a lot of intel here from the locker room today. If you want to talk about injuries, we will for a bit. It looks like Clelin Ferrell's the only player on the active roster who's slated to miss this game for the 49ers. Don't worry about Dre Greenlaw. He's got the Achilles tendonitis, but they held him out as a precaution today. He should be back at practice tomorrow. It's something that's been lingering for a while. The new addition to the injury report's the backup safety, Logan Ryan, with his groin issue. But absolutely epically good news for the 49ers is they're returning an entire handful of players. I mean, the bye really couldn't have gone better from the perspective of players coming off of injury lists for the 49ers. We are ceremoniously going to remove injury designations from the guys that have returned. Tashawn Gibson down here. I talked about Logan Ryan getting hurt. Oh, we could shade Logan Ryan in pink first because he's got the groin issue, but they do expect Logan Ryan to be back out at practice tomorrow. They think it's minor, but anyway, it's yet another safety injury. Good thing for the 49ers that Tashawn Gibson is back from his quad strain, and the rookie Jair Brown is back from his knee sprain. Ambry Thomas wearing just a very small cast on his surgically repaired hand. That surgery was a couple of weeks ago. I think 2 weeks ago today. So he was back as a full participant. Eric Armstead, we'll keep him shaded in pink here because he's been a limited participant dealing with a plantar fasciitis, but Eric Armstead is on track to play. That leaves Clelin Ferrell as the only player on this active roster that is likely to not play for the 49ers on Saturday. So how do you replace Ferrell? Well, they added another defensive lineman in Austin Bryant, and I think it's very, very possible that they elevate Austin Bryant from the practice squad to the active roster to take Ferrell's spot. Remember, it was Bryant that the 49ers signed this past offseason, the former Detroit Lion, to be one of their veteran defensive ends. They couldn't fit Bryant on the 53-man roster later on. He might have been on it for a week or two at the start of the season. But then they put him on the practice squad, and then ultimately the practice squad wasn't going to be the best fit for Austin Bryant. So he was gone. He was out of the building for a few months, but he stayed in shape. Chris Kocurek really likes Austin Bryant, and he's brought him back now. And what it's given the 49ers is a true veteran presence at defensive end, while Clelin Ferrell, who's been such a good run stopper for the 49ers, and even a guy with some pass rushing juice, is out with his knee issue. So Bryant, new acquisition. We can shade him in teal as we shade all new acquisitions. He might be able to help the 49ers right away because they did pick him up off the street, but he has been with the team this season. As far as the interior goes, you assume Armstead's going to play, but you have Sebastian Joseph Day there to continue working into the system, maybe spell some relief for the 49ers in the middle, and then you've got a fully healthy offensive unit. You don't see anything shaded in pink there. 49ers might also bring George Odom off of injured reserve. In fact, I'm going to change his shading to pink instead of that darker red because Odom is practicing now with a non-contact jersey, but he's still on IR. The window to practice, though, is open. That's a 3-week window. 49ers still have plenty of time on that front. So intensity is on point. Team is looking as healthy as it's been all season long. And we can go through some more of the notes. Fred Warner today was talking about Jordan Love and just watching tape over the course of the season of Jordan Love, said his decision-making has improved, which you would expect for a quarterback who was in his first prolonged stretch as a starting quarterback to begin this year because Aaron Rodgers was traded to the New York Jets this past offseason. You'd expect Jordan Love to look better at the end of the year than he did at the start of it. And you'd expect guys like Romeo Doubs and his other young receivers to be in better lockstep with him at the end of the year than at the start of it. And that is exactly what has happened. We have seen Jordan Love blossom. The off-platform throwing capabilities have been impressive. The 49ers, I think, are going to have to start this effort with really good coverage because Green Bay has got a lot of weapons who may not be household names yet, but they're deep at the receiver position. They're deep at the tight end position. Aaron Jones can do damage out of the backfield. And most importantly, they can play downhill. They can be on platform with the run game, with Jordan Love's conversion accuracy. They can put you into a position where you're on your heels defensively, and that becomes a big problem. And if the 49ers are going to have the upper hand in this game with their defense, well, A, they're going to need all the energy they can get. That's why the Nick Bosa rest discussion was so important. But I think it has to start with the coverage because Jordan Love has been so good under pressure. That was the one big stat that I put out there yesterday. Part of this Titanic offensive matchup, Brock Purdy leads the league at 8.7 yards per attempt when he's under pressure. Number 2 is Jordan Love at 8 yards per attempt. Shanahan not concerned about Purdy's rustiness. Deommodore Lenoir said the 49ers are not going to lose this game. He literally said that today. He remembers the pain of defeat in Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game about a year ago. And he does not want to go through that pain again. The 49ers want to capitalize on this moment in time. All right, I'm going to capitalize on this moment in time. We're 29 minutes in and open this up to a 49ers Q&A. Yeah, Phillip Rivers has never played for the 49ers. Why would I have a Phillip Rivers 49ers jersey? People are going to guess and guess and guess. You're not going to know until the Super Bowl if the 49ers win. Can I settle a work debate? Is Kyle from the Shanahan tree or the Kubiak tree? Well, Kubiak is from the Shanahan tree. the Mike Shanahan tree, right? So, and I believe, well, Mike Shanahan's an honorary member of the Bill Walsh tree. Kubiak is, I think, let's look at the Bill Walsh tree and go from there. Let's settle the debate. Let's look at this coaching lineage and settle your work debate once and for all. The Bill Walsh tree. Opening it up right now. So Kubiak worked under Seifert. So Seifert is in the Walsh tree. Kubiak was the offensive coordinator under, well, no. Kubiak was the quarterback's coach under Mike Shanahan. So Kubiak's always been in the Shanahan tree. If I go through, I'll get this up on the screen for you guys right now. How about that? So it's a Wikipedia tree, nice and simple. I just have to find where here. I can just drag it into here. Is everybody ready? There you go. Here's the Bill Walsh coaching tree as of 2015. And this is impressive, and this ties into what I'm writing tomorrow, by the way. Big piece on John Lynch and company dropping tomorrow, so be sure that you're ready for that. But in terms of settling whether Gary Kubiak is in a Shanahan tree or if he's elsewhere, we can look at this and go through Kubiak's history. 49ers QB coach in 1994 under Mike Shanahan, and then Denver Broncos offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach from 95 to 2002 under Mike Shanahan. He didn't become a head coach until 2006 for the Houston Texans. So Kubiak is part of two trees. He's part of the Bill Walsh tree because he worked for George Seifert, and George Seifert's in the Bill Walsh tree. But Gary Kubiak is also in the Mike Shanahan tree. So if you go to it, I don't know if you're asking about his son, but his son is going to be kind of like Kyle Shanahan is the son of Mike Shanahan. It's going to be an honorary member of whatever tree the dad is in. So I say that Kyle Shanahan is an honorary member of the Walsh tree because he's Mike's son. So any of the Kubiaks, and there are many of them, Gary Kubiak's sons, would be in the Walsh tree by extension, and whoever else's tree that you mentioned, whoever else they worked under. It's not, trees are not exclusive things. Coaching trees, there's influence from everywhere. But the largest coaching tree that I think has ever existed is the Bill Walsh tree. And it's even bigger than this one. This is a very simplified Bill Walsh tree. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't think that you should get lost in the technicality of things, but it is interesting to see where everybody coached. I don't have to confirm anything about the jersey. The jersey is meant to be a secret. You guys just have to wait and see when we turn it around. This is true. Steve DeBerg was number 17. Steve DeBerg, the quarterback that was the placeholder before Joe Montana took over in the late 1970s. AJ Jenkins would be epic. Now we got everybody guessing. I can't tell you if it's right or wrong. No, David Bakhtiari is not healthy. Not going to see him for Green Bay. Got a question there about David Bakhtiari. All right, your questions. Let's toss them in. Let's talk. That coaching tree question, I'm trying to find it again. You guys are just commenting a little too quickly, so I lost it. But I wanted to make sure that I answered it thoroughly. I just can't find it, so we're fine. Frank Gore. Why is somebody guessing Frank Gore? There's not a 21 behind. I have a Frank Gore in the other studio, not in this one. Jake Moody kicks in the stadium every couple weeks. I don't think that was a wind issue, though, against the Rams. I think he just didn't strike the ball correctly twice, missed the right. So Moody's going to keep on kicking the way that he kicks and he's going to make sure that his strike is more consistent. I mean, 85% isn't bad. You just want to make sure that he's kicking as well as possible entering the postseason. Oh, you're talking about who's going to replace Adam Peters. Well, no, Tariq Ahmad and RJ Gillen are next in line, director of college scouting and director of pro scouting. The 49ers have built such an impressive organization as far as the business sense of everything. They've made sure that they keep the entire front office on the same page, and they've made sure to create a non-toxic culture. We know that it wasn't good when they had Trent Baalke in there. The big emphasis when the 49ers hired Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch was unity. It was communication. The big piece I have coming tomorrow is going to give you insights into how the 49ers run the business aspect of what they're doing in the front office that I don't think you've read anywhere before. But the long story short is that focus on a good culture has really paid off. And it's paid off into a culture of advancement. They promote from within because they're indoctrinating their people in a positive way over the course of several years. So Tariq Ahmad has been the director of college scouting for a while. RJ Gillen has been the pro scouting director for a while. Those guys have been directly underneath Adam Peters, who's now the GM of Washington. And if your organization's goal is to see the type of advancement that the 49ers have seen with Adam Peters, with Martin Mayhew before him, with the head coaches, with DeMeco Ryans, Mike McDaniel, and Robert Saleh. If your organization's goal is to see as much of that as possible, then you're going to have to replenish those positions. And you believe in your system to replenish them. You don't freak out when a guy leaves and say that he's irreplaceable. The system is irreplaceable. The individuals aren't. That's what the 49ers have been able to build. So the big piece on John Lynch tomorrow will drop, and we'll talk about that in the piece. And I'll be here on the show talking about it a lot. But to answer your question, Tariq Ahmad and RJ Gillen are the two internal candidates who are most likely to fill Adam Peters' seat as assistant general manager to John Lynch. Would Kyle be on the hot seat if the 49ers were to lose? Absolutely not. No reason for him to be on the hot seat. The process with which the 49ers are operating is sound. The franchise is healthy. And good news for people who are sane. They don't listen to random rumors on YouTube that aren't credible or Twitter that aren't credible. Best food near Levi's? I hate to break it to you. It's probably In-N-Out Burger. It's not really a culinary nirvana around Levi Stadium. San Francisco is one of the best food cities in the world. So if you're coming into the Bay Area for the game, I always recommend San Francisco because you're going to get the good food and then you could just go watch the game at Levi Stadium. But if you have to eat near Levi's, you'll find me at the In-N-Out Burger late at night in Santa Clara or Mountain View sometimes after I finished all my work and done all my videos. You'll find me there eating because I need to get my food, and that's the best option. And don't get me wrong, In-N-Out is really, really good. Greetings to Bolivia. That's awesome. We truly do have viewers everywhere. Make sure you check out the article. Check out the hype video that Steve Young posted today, or the 49ers posted it, but with Steve Young talking. That was a good one. Kyle is an elite coach who is not perfect, says Mike. Yes, that's a good way to put it. And is anybody perfect? No. Bill Walsh wasn't perfect. I think people want to run Kyle out of town would want to run Bill Walsh out of town. He had his unreasonable critics as well. All you can do in a healthy organization and a healthy business is control your process so that you maximize the chance at the best results. You're not ultimately in control of the result. Last year, the 49ers lost Brock Purdy. That was out of their control. Sometimes the officials are not going to be particularly kind to you on any given Sunday. That's outside of your control. You maximize your chances to hit that home run. You work the count in your favor. You take the swing when you see the pitch that you like. You'll make contact some of the time. It will go over the fence if you set yourself up, if you've done your training, if you've put yourself into the right position. Sometimes, though, that pitch is just too nasty. You can't deal with it, and you're going to strike out. You're going to hit a weak grounder, It happens. I think the 49ers have positioned themselves as well as they possibly can this year. Now they're healthy with that 1 seed. That's why this is a moment in time, and we'll see what happens. Bill Walsh was far from perfect. You kidding me? 49ers win the Super Bowl in 81. They don't win in 82. They don't win in 83. They win in 84. They don't win in 85. They don't win in 86. They lose in the divisional round to the Vikings in 87. Big upset at home. In 88, they dropped to 6-5. Bill Walsh literally breaks his rib on the sideline as the 49ers blow a 23-0 lead to the Phoenix Cardinals to lose 24-3. On a punt return, Bill Walsh gets nailed, breaks his rib. He's stressed out of his mind. He wants to retire. He wants to quit. He's a tortured genius. And then they turn it around and they win that Super Bowl in 88. No, so not perfect because there was a lot of failure there. In fact, they came up short in more seasons than they won under Bill Walsh. So that's just perspective to have. 49ers have only been contenders with Shanahan now. This is the 4th season. First couple years, they weren't true contenders. They had to build the program. 19, obviously contenders. 21, 22, they were able to navigate around the injury issues well enough to get to the NFC Championship game. But they've been to 3 of the past 4 NFC titles. They've been to a Super Bowl in that span. If they keep on giving themselves good at-bats, ultimately they're going to get that base hit or that home run or whatever you want to use as the Super Bowl analogy. The whole NFL uses a form of the Bill Walsh system. Bill Walsh was legendary, but he was not perfect. And that's the point. Kyle Shanahan can be really good without being perfect. And he's not on any hot seat, nor will he be on a hot seat, even if the 49ers lose. It is pro sports. It's time for some perspective. This is a really good one. Joe Montana had 4 turnovers against the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game and went on to win the game in the Super Bowl. Another dose of reality for some people that just don't understand it regarding Brock Purdy and the quarterback position. It is an imperfect sport in an imperfect world. It is a great representation of how life works. Football isn't fair, nor should it be. Football is not linear, nor should it be. And it definitely should not be judged as such. It is not Madden on rookie mode, rookie difficulty level when you're playing a video game. And I think video games and fantasy football have really challenged how some people view the game. It's really stunted some analysis in this modern era. But you have to realize that even the greats like Joe Montana, at their greatest moments, were coming off of not so great moments. That's why football's like life. Tests how well you bounce back from adversity. What playoff teams are playing with house money right now? It's a good question. I would say the Houston Texans are playing with house money. The Packers are playing with house money. I don't think that the Chiefs and Bills can ever say that they're playing with house money. I mean, when you've got Mahomes and Josh Allen, especially the Bills, close but no cigar so many times. The 49ers, Chiefs, and Bills are not playing with any sort of house money. These guys, there's pressure for them to win. The Texans, they might be a year ahead of schedule for all we know. CJ Stroud is emerging. That's great for them. I don't see a house money situation there at all. The Lions, house money. 32 years without a playoff win. They end that streak. Yeah, those guys are playing with house money. Who else do we have? I said the Texans, and I said the Lions, and I said the Packers, the team that the 49ers are playing against. So it's an inherently dangerous spot for the 49ers. They're playing against the football team that is playing with house money. But you're the more experienced team. You're the better team if you're the 49ers. It's time to man up and execute and beat the inferior team. Don't let this become 1995 against the Green Bay Packers. Don't let it become one of those times that a 1 seed has lost in the divisional round. Make sure that you execute. Make sure that your advantage translates onto the football field. It might rain on Saturday. In fact, it looks like the percentage might be climbing back up. It looked like it was dipping earlier today. Might climb back up. And please don't ask me what the rain will do to this game. The rain will make the ball wet. The rain will make the turf slipperier. These are obvious things. The favorite never likes rain because the favorite wants the game to play out according to the projection. Rain can throw a wrench in that projection. What kind of wrench? We don't know because football's unpredictable, but it definitely is something to keep in mind. Oh, yeah. Tampa Bay also playing with house money. That being said, Tampa Bay won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. I know with Brady. They got more veterans on that team. Now they have Baker Mayfield running the quarterback position. I tend to think that Tampa Bay just got lucky that they were playing the Eagles in that first game. I just don't think that they're all that good. I know the Eagles were atrocious and Tampa Bay blew them out. The Eagles were the walking dead by the time they hit the postseason this year after the 49ers broke them. I think a Sam's cheeseburger would hit the spot on a rainy day. It would. You know, I don't think I'm going to go tonight though because I didn't swim today. And Sam's cheeseburgers hit the spot when I get into the bay, and getting into the bay when it's this dreary and rainy out was just tough. So I decided to skip it today, but it's supposed to be sunny tomorrow. I think I'm going to pay a special visit to Kezar Stadium, which is what I do during every playoff season. Get some content from Kezar, and then I'll move on with my life. But Sam's Burgers may be coming up on Thursday or, well, actually tomorrow's Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. We got a few days to pass before the big game on Saturday. Are the Packers good at stopping the run? No, they are not good at stopping the run. Number 27 DVOA against the run, number 27 against the pass. There's a reason why the 49ers are 10-point favorites. I don't know if the forecast of rain is accurate. I'm not God. I don't know if it's going to rain or not. We'll see. But yes, there is a forecast for rain, but I don't know if it's accurate or not. None of us know until we actually see whether or not it rains on Saturday. Mike thinks that Joe Barry is a trash defensive coordinator. Yeah, I mean the Cowboys. I mean the Packers don't have good defensive ratings, so I also don't think they have great defensive talent. I think the best players on that defense are Kenny Clark, the nose tackle, and Jair Alexander, the cornerback. And you can work around those two players. If you successfully work around them, then you could hit a whole bunch of other holes. The Packers are number 27 against running backs in the pass game, number 27 against tight ends in the pass game. There's a whole lot of poor rankings on that Packers defense. Why wouldn't the 49ers be favorites even with the rain? I mean, the Packers have to play through the rain too. That's the thing, like it's one of those things. It's not like it just affects the 49ers. The rain just adds a degree of unpredictability. It could be that equalizing factor in that regard, but it doesn't add a certainty of unpredictability. The 49ers absolutely can beat all AFC teams that are still alive in the Super Bowl. Whether or not they will is a different question, but this 49ers team is one of the most talented that we've seen in league history. So I think unquestionably they can. They have the ability to beat anybody on the other side of the bracket. Are we going to see Trent Williams as an eligible tackle? That I do not know. All right, so this I don't know if Mike's tossed it in there yet. If not, then we got to toss it in. But this is the article. Big one on John Lynch coming tomorrow. I think I'm gonna have a live for you a little bit later this evening. We'll do a later night Lombardi. We'll do a breakdown of the 49ers offense against the Packers defense, or Packers offense against the 49ers defense, whichever one I feel like doing. So I'll start to get onto the previews earlier this week because it is a playoff game. It is a moment in time. But for the time being, go ahead and check out Brock Purdy, Jordan Love. They highlight a first-rate Packers 49ers offensive matchup. It is going to be fun on Saturday. A lot of fun. 8 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Fox. 49ers, Packers. All right. Talk to you soon. Time for dinner. I'll let you know what I have.